Thank you, Randy. Now to our other big story tonight, the NCAA releasing its 74-page report on the Michigan Wolverines sign-stealing scandal investigation.
The organization says that they found overwhelming evidence of an impermissible scouting scheme and cover-up. As a result, U of M will face a fine that could exceed $20 million. And head coach Sharon Moore will be suspended for a total of 3 games.
2 of those self-imposed. The 3rd game suspension will happen next season. 7 investigator Ross Jones has more on the punishment handed down and how Michigan is responding.
We may never know the full extent to which others in the program were aware of what Mr. Stalions was doing.
The investigation released today found overwhelming evidence that U of M's football team engaged in off-campus, in-person sign stealing, committed recruiting violations, and at times engaged in a cover-up.
The true scope and scale of the scheme, including the competitive advantage it afforded, will never be fully known due to individuals' intentional destruction and withholding of materials and information. But the intent was clear: to gain a substantial competitive advantage.
The NCAA said the scheme stretched over 3 seasons, involved 13 different opponents and 56 total games, and was nicknamed the KGB. It was former staffer Connor Stalions at the center of it all, the NCAA said, confirming that was him on the Spartan Stadium sideline during a game against Central Michigan. Once the scheme came to light, the probe found Stalions engaged in an elaborate cover-up.
Stalions himself described smashing his phone into 1,000 pieces and throwing it into a pond, providing false and misleading information during interviews, telling a potential witness to lie when interviewed.
Michigan will be hit with an enormous fine starting at $50,000 and growing quickly. It will include a fine equal to 10% of the football budget, another fine of 10% the cost of this year's football scholarships, and the loss of all postseason revenue sharing for this season and next. ESPN today estimated the total fine could easily surpass $30 million.
Coach Harbaugh never turned over any emails or text messages and then refused to be interviewed by NCAA enforcement staff.
The investigation found that Coach Jim Harbaugh stymied efforts to understand how the scheme worked and whether he had any knowledge of it.
The education and monitoring efforts of the chief compliance officer and her staff were not welcomed by the football program. Instead, they were viewed as, quote, a thorn in Harbaugh's side, quote, a roadblock, and described as, quote, scum of the earth.
The NCAA said today that while there was sufficient grounds to prescribe a postseason ban, doing so would unfairly penalize student athletes for the actions of coaches and staff who are no longer associated with the Michigan football program. NCAA officials today insisted their punishment did Michigan no favors.
I would hope that the takeaway is that if you fail to cooperate, there can be really serious consequences.
Now, Jim Harbaugh has previously denied any knowledge of the sign-stealing scheme. Of course, he left U of M after winning the national title to coach the LA Chargers. In a statement today, U of M said it appreciated the NCAA's work, but they disagree with many of its findings. The school will appeal the decision to ensure a fair result, they said. So this might not be over yet.
Yeah, and it does boil down to the young people who just
Absolutely.
want the opportunity to do what they do.
And it's going to cost them financially big time.
No doubt.
All right. Thanks, Ross.